and welcome to this morning's course orientation. Today, our orientation will be looking at BSB 40120, which is the Certificate for in Business. My name is Tim Stalker. I am one of the course advisors here at Let Training. Joining me this morning, I have one of our trainers, Ray McCall. Ray, thanks for joining me this morning.
Thank you for inviting me, Tim. Pleasure.
No worries. So just before we get started, Ray, just for the people who are listening, do you mind going into a bit of background before you were with Let Training? What sort of areas in business were you involved with?
Sure, absolutely. Quite a broad spectrum over a 30-odd year period in both for-profit and not-for-profit sector. And again, I always caveat that not-for-profit still requires significant business acumen just as much as working in the for-profit sector. Having said that, I've been responsible for multi-million-dollar business units across hospitality, education, facility services, and community services more recently, in both revenue generating profit centres and in corporate services, in support services as well.
Great, fantastic. So just before we get started this morning, a couple of bits of housekeeping. For people in the chat, feel free to ask questions about the course and about the orientation at any stage. We do have course advisors monitoring the chat, and they'll be happy to help you out with any questions you might have. Now, in the event that the question might need a little bit more of an in-depth answer, the advisor will ask you for your name or your contact details, and we will be happy to get in touch with you after the orientation, either by phone or by email, and discuss it in a bit more depth with you. We will also pause the orientation at a couple of points, just so that way, if chat does have any questions they'd like to ask straight away, they're more than welcome to. But as I said, we'll just get started. And today we are looking at the Certificate for in Business. This is a nationally recognised course. It is part of the Australian Qualifications Framework. And as we can see here, this is a level 4 qualification. Now, for the Certificate for in Business, you do not need any entry requirements. You can enrol straight into it. This is in comparison to a higher level of course, for example, the Advanced Diploma of Business we see there. The Certificate 4 is seen as a good one for people who are starting out their careers in business roles, or who are looking to formalise their existing skills in a business roles. So we're looking at people whose skills are focused on supporting functions, as opposed to the next level up, which is the diploma, which is more about managing and overseeing those functions. We'll just move on now to career outcomes. Now, we have a few different career outcomes listed here for people who finish this course, but these are by no means the only career opportunities you might have by finishing this course. Ray, what are some of the other opportunities that might not be listed here?
Absolutely, Tim. I guess the focus is always on those people who are in the business unit. So as the team leader or the supervisor, analyst, as it says there, or administrator. But often we forget there are areas, for example, in corporate services, the likes of HR, who are designated business partners. And it really does require that business acumen to be able to engage with those revenue generating centres and understand the business quite holistically. So I would say anyone involved at that level who has, and that could be in a small to medium enterprise as well, this qualification definitely relates.
Fantastic. The other good thing about the Certificate for in Business is that it does provide multiple career pathway options, as Ray just discussed there. And it's also possible to combine the course with others. So you might be able to get the most proverbial bang for your buck. Now, Ray, one of the ones we will often recommend to people is the Certificate for in Leadership and Management. Would you agree that that's a good one to pair up with this particular course?
Yes, absolutely. They complement one another, certainly from the point of view of leadership and management, bringing in the people perspective of roles. So being able to lead and influence and negotiate, which is certainly a great complement to the business focus.
Fantastic. So we'll just move on now to the course outline. Now, as we see here, this is a nationally recognised qualification. You will get 12 months to complete the course, and we have broken up the course into 12 different skills. As we see here, they're divided up into functional skills and professional skills. Now, Ray, as a course advisor, a lot of times people will ask us about those professional skills, and they'll look at some of them there. For example, develop and use emotional intelligence, or maybe analyze and present research information. And I get asked a lot, are these skills that we really need to learn as a part of this course? Now, as someone who has had dealings with the course, would you believe that these are very important skills for people?
Absolutely, without a doubt, Tim, and highlighting or extrapolating on your comments of those two that you singled out. If you look at in the functional areas, one of the critical skills is maintaining business relationships, and mindful that is business relationships both internally within an organisation and externally, and that could range from customers, suppliers, through to regulatory bodies, government agencies, and so forth. It does require you as the business operator or the business manager or someone involved in the business to actually apply emotional intelligence, given that, as we understand, skills for the 21st century, survival in the world of work, it's very much going to be people-oriented, and therefore emotional intelligence is critical. Same thing from the point of view of researching information. At the end of the day, you need to understand your business inside and out, and it complements writing complex documents, which you see as one of the required skills of business, that you need to be very evidence-based in your approach. So for someone to undertake, for example, what we refer to as a pest analysis of the external environment within which the business operates, and same thing in terms of internal from a benchmarking point of view, needing to be absolutely able to undertake appropriate research to convert that into usable information for the business.
Right. Now this course can also be completed in any order. As a trainer, where would you recommend new students start off?
Yeah, I'd zero in on one of the functional skills that I've already referenced, and that would be the build and maintain business relationships. I believe that by zeroing in there, it gives you an understanding of the scope of what we're talking about. Yes, it's a core skill. It's all about influencing, building, nurturing, maintaining, and sustaining business relationships. But it also gives you as I say, the insight, that holistic insight of what we're talking about as functioning effectively in the business world.
Right. Okay. Now, all 12 of these skills or units will need to be completed in order to obtain certificate for in business course. But in saying that, people who complete at least one unit can receive a statement of attainment. So at the end of your 12-month enrollment term, if you decide not to complete the course, so long as you've completed at least one unit, you will receive a statement of attainment for the units that you've completed. And I see here we have a question in chat. Let me just have a quick look here. And the question in chat is, how many hours of study do we recommend per unit? Okay, what we recommend is 10 to 15 hours of study a week will get you through one unit every month. So you're looking at anywhere from around 40 hours to 60 hours. Now, we know that's a very wide range of timing, but considering some people are coming into this course with previous business experience and others are coming into it potentially fresh, and even some of these units, even though you have business experience, might be something new that you're picking up for the first time. So that's why we give a large array of time that it might take you to get through it. Ray, would you agree with that, around 10 to 15 hours a week?
Absolutely. And what I would recommend, and I do to all of the people I work with, is to apply that time on a consistent basis. Even, I know we tend to leave it till our days off, but that may mean a week, 5 days in between. If you get the opportunity to apply even 20, 30 minutes a day, it keeps that information current, fresh in mind, and that when you go back to it on the weekend with the sustained period, you're not having to double handle and go back to where you were the week before.
Exactly right. We'll just pause for a moment and we'll just see if there are any other questions from chat before we move on to the next section. I'm not seeing any questions come through here, so let's move on to the next section of the orientation, which is to do with the learning facilitation model. Now, the course, as we've previously discussed, is 100% online. You are able to complete this course anywhere with reliable internet access, so long as you have access to a desktop or laptop computer. We currently have students enrolled with us who are on remote areas, working in fly-in, fly-out roles. We also have people currently overseas as part of our defence forces who are studying with us. One thing we will point out for people who are going to be overseas doing their studies, you do need to factor in time differences when contacting your trainers. Trainers are available in the office between 9 and 5:30 p.m. Sydney local time, so you will need to adjust accordingly there. The online learning platform has all your learning and assessment materials available, so you will not be waiting for any hard copies of textbooks or assessments to be delivered to you. It is all there on the online learning platform, and you can access it as soon as you receive your login details. One other thing that we have listed here is about our webinars. We do offer regularly scheduled webinars, which are an interactive component to your study. Ray, what are some of the webinars that you've been involved with recently that concern the Certificate Foreign Business course?
Absolutely. Two streams, in actual fact, Tim. One is assisting with what I call unpacking the assessment task requirements, and we'll talk in a moment about assessment tasks themselves. But there are a series of webinars that really walk the learner through what the requirements are and where to find the relevant information. So that's one stream, and that's constantly being added to. The other stream are topic specific, very applied in terms of the units. And some examples there include, and you might refer back to the reference to the core skills, writing complex documents. I've recently done a webinar on writing business reports, which is not only usable from a workplace point of view, but certainly in terms of completing assessment tasks. One of the skill areas was recruitment and onboarding. I've also done a recent webinar on describing the difference between onboarding, induction and orientation, which often are used very interchangeably, but there are very discrete elements to each of those components. Some others include the likes of how to create an action plan, how to undertake a SWOT analysis and a PEST analysis, which are tools that, from a research point of view that I alluded to. And there's also, areas right down to developing a communication plan. So very practical, applied how-to style webinars.
Fantastic. Now, for our enrolled students, you will receive advanced notice of webinars that are going to be conducted that are part of your course. So you can watch them live, you can follow along with them live. Alternatively, we will always send you the links to the recorded webinars after they've been completed, and you can watch them then at your own pace and at your own leisure. Access to the webinars does not incur any additional fees. Another bit of information we have here in this section is on our tutors or trainers. Now, we will assign you a trainer or tutor that will be there for you through your studies with us. They're there to support you. Trainers are available from 9 until 5:30, as I said, Monday to Friday, Sydney time. There are multiple methods by which students can contact their trainers. In the event of very quick questions, you can always try and contact us by phone. If your trainer is available, or if another trainer to do with that particular course is available, we will be happy to put you through to them, but this is for only very, very quick questions. Ordinarily, we would suggest most questions, it's probably better to email your trainer. This is the preferred method of contact. All you need to do is email your trainer. You do have a direct email address to them, and all emails will be responded to within 1 to 2 business days. Now, alternatively, for more in-depth assistance, so for maybe clarification of your resource material, or if you need to talk about a previous assessment attempt, you can book in a 30-minute Zoom or phone support session. We recommend booking these a couple of days in advance because the trainers do tend to fill up relatively quickly. But in this 30 minutes, your trainer is happy to sit down with you and go through as many questions as you like. So we recommend always having your resource material and have your questions written out ready to go, because the trainers, and I'm sure Ray will agree with me here, the trainers can get through quite a bit of information in that 30 minutes, correct?
Absolutely, if it's targeted, and it is critical from that point of view. Absolutely. And the other thing I'd qualify is in setting up and communicating, not only give that information, but very clearly identify by unit code or unit title what you're wanting to refer to, because that way both parties can come prepared and economically use the 30-minute session.
Absolutely. And in our course induction, when people enroll, we do provide an induction people can go through. There is a section on how best to communicate with your trainers. These support services are free. There is no additional cost for trainer support, regardless of the method you use, whether it's phone, email, or the Zoom support sessions. It does not incur any additional fees on the price of your course. One other quick thing is that your tutor is normally also your assessor, who will be marking your assessments and providing you with feedback, and those assessments are marked within 5 business days. We'll just move on now. We've been talking about the assessments, so we'll now move on to them in a bit more detail. Each of the units of this course, and there are 12 units altogether, will have 2 assessment tasks each. The first one is a series of knowledge-based short answer questions. The big question I get asked all the time, is there multiple choice? Unfortunately, there are no multiple choice answers as part of this course. I'm sorry to say that, but equally, we're not asking for any essays either. We're not going to ask you for 1,000, 2,000 words. Most of the questions are going to require a quick summary, maybe a list, maybe outlining, maybe explaining, but nothing essay length. I promise you that. These have been designed so trainers know that you've read and understood your resource material, and it will help you then when you move on to your practical project, which is the second assessment task for each unit. These practical projects, Ray, they're mostly conducted in a simulated business environment, correct? So they're case studies and simulated workplace events, correct?
Absolutely. And as you'll see on the screen there, one of the support documents is a simulated business suite of information. So the context is very clearly provided for you to complete the assessment tasks.
Fantastic. Now, for these assessments, you don't need to access a classroom, a work site, and you don't need any work placements to finish them. They're completely online. Now, Ray, what are some of the tasks that students might be asked to complete as part of these assessments?
Absolutely. Very, very applied. So, and if we look at, for example, their project task 2, what appears on the screen, participate in a meeting to negotiate business development opportunities. So things like negotiation and consultation sessions are examples. Others include presentations or training sessions, for example, facilitating a general meeting, as it were, besides the other areas that don't necessarily require that interaction, like developing action plans, developing communication plans, and writing business documents.
Fantastic. Now, one of the reasons we do provide these case studies and these simulated workplace events is so that way all students are marked on the same criteria. We don't allow previous work history in assessment answers. And this is because, as we've previously outlined, some of the people studying this course will have had prior business experience and others might not. So this way we level the playing field entirely and everyone is marked on exactly the same assessment criteria. Now, in saying that, you do get multiple assessment attempts. So if on the first attempt you considered not yet competent, that's completely fine. We give 3 assessment attempts to begin with. And after the third, if you're still not there, that's no problem either. All we'll do is put a temporary hold on this particular task, and we will book you in for one of those 30-minute support sessions that we've discussed earlier with your trainer. After that, we will then provide further access to the assessment task. Now, these extra assessment tasks and the extra trainer contact incur no additional fees either. It is all completely covered by your course fees. And we'll just pause for another moment here, and we'll just see if there are any questions before we move on. We've got a question coming through in chat. Let's just have a quick look here. Is there a webinar for every unit in this course? Ray, I think you'd probably be the best one to fill that. Do you think there's a webinar available for every unit in this course?
Look, there will be actually multiple. And part of the information that's provided to you on at commencement and certainly through, you'll get updated, excuse me, topic-specific webinars as well. So like I said, there's typically those assessment, how to unpack them, as well as tools that, and it could be that they're delivered by your trainer and assessor or one of the other trainer and assessors at LET Training.
Fantastic. So we'll just pause another moment here and see if there are any other questions coming through. If not, we'll move on to the next section of the orientation. I don't believe we're seeing anyone here. So let's move on to the next section. And the next section of this orientation is on other assessment pathways. Now, as well as completing the assessment tasks, there are a couple of methods through which students are able to complete the units of this course. We have a couple outlined here. The first one being credit transfers. Now, Ray, credit transfers, we're specifically talking here about previous study, correct?
That's correct. And previous study within the vocational education and training sector. So they need to be VET competency outcomes as opposed to higher education. So a first year course, second year, whatever, from a university is not within the scope of credit transfer under the VET system here in Australia. So, and again, it needs to be apples for apples. So you've previously done Write Complex Documents unit at another RTO, you've achieved a competency outcome, and we can then recognise that to avoid you having to redo it. It needs to be the current version or an equivalent. So there may be changes over a period of time. We have to make sure that, excuse me, any superseded versions that you've completed are equivalent to the new. So it, again, has to map completely according to the curriculum framework that we work under. And also it needs to be current or from the very present. So therefore, in terms of qualifications that perhaps may have been achieved 10, 12 years ago in the VET system, to support that credit transfer, we would still also need to have evidence that that skill is currently practiced.
Right, fantastic. Now, for the credit transfer, this can be completed prior to enrolment of credit transfer assessment. What we will need is evidence. Now, that evidence can be in the form of a transcript. You can use transcripts either from the institute you studied at or from USI itself. All you need to do is email those transcripts to us here at LET Training, and we can have a look at them for you and confirm any potential areas of credit transfer. A credit transfer assessment incurs no additional fees. This is in comparison to recognition of prior learning, or RPL. Now, Ray, RPL, that is more focused on informal skills, so skills developed at work, correct?
Absolutely. It's being able to demonstrate, and it may also be you've completed some informal training, non-accredited, but it needs to be substantiated by workplace-based, excuse me, evidence. So the real focus is on being able to evidence that you actually have and are capable in that skill area.
Fantastic, fantastic. Now, an initial consultation of RPL can be completed prior to enrolment. Basically, you'd be on the phone talking to one of our trainers about your current roles and responsibilities, and they'd be able to give you an idea of areas where there potentially may be RPL. After enrolment is when your dedicated trainer will provide you with a list of information and evidence you will need to obtain from your workplace to create essentially a portfolio and submit that for assessment. Now, at that point, there are fees that are incurred for an RPL assessment. However, they do change depending on the number of units you'll be receiving an RPL assessment for. We will always recommend talking to the course advisors or the trainers prior to submitting them, just to confirm the fees. They also are included in one of the PDF attachments to the course information packs that you would have already received. Moving on here, another option we have is for gap training. Now, gap training, right, that's in a case where someone potentially has some of a unit can be completed via, say, a credit transfer or RPL, but not the entire thing, correct?
Absolutely. So there's a deficit, as it were, in the skills that you've been able to evidence. So if I backtrack a moment, just to give some examples, I'll pick on a unit, and you would have seen the recruitment and onboarding one as part of the professional skills. So you're required to submit a full suite of documentation that evidences your engagement in the recruitment selection, including interviewing and onboarding processes. So things like approval forms, job descriptions that have been reviewed, interview questionnaires, selection reports, reference checks that have been completed, induction checklists, and so forth. So let's assume that, for example, you're able to demonstrate that you're actively engaged in the recruitment selection part, but you don't have any involvement in induction. So that's all done by, let's say, HR independently. So what we would do there is that we would organise partial recognition for your capability in terms of the recruitment side. We would then organise appropriate training and assessment materials or learning and assessment materials for you, and you would complete what we refer to as a gap assessment to address those onboarding requirements, so that ultimately the combination of your completed assessment tasks and your partial RPL would lead with a competency outcome.
Fantastic. So we'll just move on now to our next section of the orientation. And this has to do with other support services. Now, it's not just support from your tutor that you can get here at Let Training. If you have any issues with technical aspects of the resources or the online learning portal, or if you potentially would like to discuss paying off your course in a different way, you can always contact our admin team. Their phone number is right there, 0296333929, and they are in the office from Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m, again, Sydney local time. We also provide Facebook groups for students to obtain peer support from other people who are finishing courses with us as well. As we see, we've divided those into Certificate 4, Diploma and Advanced Diploma level groups. And of course, prior to enrolment, if you do have any questions about the course, you can always email us at inquire@lettraining.com.au, and we'll always be happy to help you out. Now, if after this orientation you decide to enroll, that's fantastic. There are a couple of ways by which you can enroll. The first and the most popular is to enroll via our website, and we've got the link there to the specific Certificate 4 in Business course information page. When you get on that page, you are looking for that nationally recognised training logo, and underneath that is the Enrol Now button. If you click that, it will take you through to the enrolment section of our website. It will not take you more than 10 minutes to complete the necessary forms and submit your enrolment with us. Alternatively, you can enrol via email. One of the attachments to the course information packs you would have received is an enrolment form. So all you need to do is complete that enrolment form. You don't even need to print it out. You can complete it on your computer and email it back to Let Training. Regardless of the method, whether you enroll via our website or whether you submit an enrolment form via email, your enrolment will be processed within 1 business day. And of course, if you need any help with the enrolment process, don't hesitate to contact us at 0296333929. Either one of the admin team or one of the course advisors will be happy to help you out with that. Now, when you enroll, you may wish to use one of our payment plans. Of course, you can pay for the course upfront in full. Alternatively, you can nominate to use one of our plans, and we've got them listed here. You may choose to pay half upfront and then half within 30 or 60 days. Alternatively, you can choose to pay it off in monthly, fortnightly, or weekly installments. Now, all of our payment plans do have an upfront installment. So at enrolment, a portion will be taken, as well as an admin fee. And the upfront installments and the admin fees are very clearly noted on the enrolment forms, as well as in the course information packs you would have already received. If you would like to talk potentially about customizing a payment plan, so maybe you'd like to pay a little bit extra a week and get paying the course off as quick as possible, that's completely fine. Get in contact with the course advisors and we'll be happy to talk to our accounts team and see what we can create for you. However, I will point out that the upfront payments for each of the plans will not change. They must remain at those levels. We're now getting toward the end of the orientation. We'll just pause for another moment and see if there are any questions coming through in chat that we can help with. We'll just pause another moment here and we'll just see if any questions are coming through. There doesn't appear to be at this stage. So with that said, we will begin to wrap up here. This has been the orientation for the Certificate 4 in Business, BSB 40120. Now, if you have any further questions after watching this orientation, please don't hesitate to contact us. You can contact us by email at the email address there, inquire@lettraining.com.au. You can reach us at the number, which we've said repeatedly, 0296333929, or you can always contact us on Facebook as well at Let Training 1. So with that said, we will finish up the orientation now. I'd like to thank Ray for his time this morning. Thanks a lot, Ray. Greatly appreciated as always.
My pleasure, Tim, and I look forward to welcoming new learners to Let Training.
Fantastic. Well, this has been the orientation for the Certificate 4 in Business with Let Training. My name is Tim Stalker. I'm one of the course advisors here. And with that said, we will